The James Bond franchise has a storied history. 25 films, 6 different actors, all spanning over the course of 60 plus years. But with Amazon's creative control acquisition of the legendary movie character from its two longtime producers, Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson, the Bond franchise is changing, for better or for worse. Today, we're discussing the future of James Bond with Amazon MGM Studios, and we'll delve into potential positives/negatives of this deal. There's been a lot of confusion surrounding Bond lately. We have yet to receive an announcement of who will succeed Daniel Craig, despite No Time to Die coming out almost 3.5 years ago. We also have no idea what type of James Bond film we're getting next. A while ago, some speculated Christopher Nolan would direct the next entry, which proved to be false now that Nolan is directing his own version of The Odyssey. Later on, there was a rumor that 007 would go back to his campy roots from the Roger Moore era, but we still have no clue if that rumor is true or not, and I guess we'll eventually find out. With the Amazon MGM Studios announcement though, it's clear why it's taken so long for all of these answers to come to fruition. There's been back and forth between the Broccoli's and Amazon over James Bond's next steps, which doesn't surprise me at all. Studios these days can be way over their heads. A creator will have their direction in mind. However, if it doesn't align with what the studio wants, a disaster could unfold. I always think back to The Rise of Skywalker, when Colin Trevorrow had his story written for Episode 9. But Disney didn't like the vibe. Their ideas for the finale were much different. So they fired him and hired back the yes-man J.J. Abrams for the last installment. Speaking of Star Wars, some have even compared Amazon's creative acquisition of Bond to Disney's acquisition of Star Wars from George Lucas. Crazy enough, Bond is one of the only massive movie franchises left not owned by a major film studio, and technically, Amazon MGM is not there just yet. So that's good, I guess. Better than Disney, am I right? But sadly, Amazon is one of the biggest companies in the world, if not the biggest. They've been trying to up their film game for some time now, and Bond could be their breakthrough. But considering how good they do in business elsewhere, their ego is already massive. So I'm not surprised Bond's new direction was either going their way or no way at all. The Broccoli's were fighting a losing battle against them. Amazon wanted to do exactly what they wanted without Barbara Broccoli or Michael G. Wilson's involvement. So now the question is, what will Amazon do with James Bond? Real quick, if you're new here, subscribe to the channel and hit that like button if you're enjoying this so far. Alright, let's talk about what I think Amazon will do. If I had to guess, I'm almost positive Amazon will start with a TV series. Many believe their first order of business will be a movie. I honestly don't think that'll happen. If you're in Amazon's shoes, you want people to know that James Bond is your property. Why make a theatrical movie when you can begin the new era with a television show on your streaming service? Following this, I then think a film will come out in theaters. It'd be incredibly stupid for Amazon to get their hands on Bond, only for them to drag out making another movie. It's already been over 3 years since No Time to Die, and people are chomping at the bit to see more. So if I had to make a prediction, I would say Amazon develops a Bond TV series first, then moves on to finally giving us the next James Bond feature-length film. And if I were a betting man, I'd predict we'll get an announcement before the end of 2025 of who the next James Bond will be. Okay, now let's talk some positives and negatives of Amazon's creative control over Bond. As far as positives go, the best thing about Amazon owning Bond is the fact that the wheels are finally turning. Instead of having to wait another few years or longer for James Bond content, I'm sure Amazon will delve right into brainstorming. It shouldn't take too much time now to get a good idea of what's on the horizon for 007. Whether or not Amazon does great things with him is unknown. But I do know Amazon Prime is one of the better streaming services, so hopefully I can trust them over a company like Disney. I'll admit too, at first I was really disappointed hearing about the Amazon news. But the more I think about it, the more I'm okay with getting a James Bond universe TV series or two. If they're done well, that is. Since 2015, we've only had one piece of James Bond material. So the idea of getting at least something in the form of 007 media is exciting. But fingers crossed, of course. Because I remember the last time I got overly excited for something along the lines of this. Now then, what about the negatives? Well, one fairly obvious negative is Amazon potentially abusing their creative power by making too much James Bond content. If we get multiple TV shows per year, plus a movie or two, that wouldn't sit right with me. I'm looking at you, Disney. The last thing I want is an oversaturation of James Bond. Yeah, it's a little annoying how long it can take between 007 projects. However, I don't mind having the wait if what we get is good. And the last couple movie entries have been solid. So I ask Amazon to please not make too much James Bond universe content. A whole lot of franchises I grew up loving have been ruined due to oversaturation. So hopefully Amazon just aims for quality over quantity. Another potential negative of Amazon's power over 007 is that they could change too much about the character. The James Bond we know is a suave womanizer who's numb to killing and great at doing so. But now that it's 2025 and Amazon owns Bond, will they eliminate the womanizer side of his character? Will they make him less of a superhuman and more of a normal guy? Could they change Bond's gender altogether? Will Amazon give us a female iteration of 007? My hope is that they change nothing about him. I like how the character has always been. There's no reason to change anything. But it could happen, and that would be a mistake, I think. So, what are your thoughts on Amazon getting creative control over James Bond? Do you think this is a good or bad thing? And what do you think Amazon will end up doing with the universe? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Well, as always, thank you all so much for watching this video. Again, if you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a like if you enjoyed yourself. I'll catch you all in the next one. See you then.